I'm Gemma Rolls-Bentley, curator and author of the book Queer Art, and I'm here to explore the exhibition Dorothy Hepworth and Patricia Preece, an Untold Story at Charleston in Lewes. This brilliant exhibition tells the story of queer survival. Dorothy Hepworth and Patricia Preece were radical collaborators, partners in both art and life, and for the first time here, through archival material, undiscovered letters and artworks, this exhibition sheds light on their story. For over 50 years, Dorothy Hepworth and Patricia Preece had an unusual artistic collaboration that fooled the art world, their patrons and their friends. Throughout Dorothy's lifetime, her paintings were attributed to Patricia, who was usually described as her sister or her friend. The pair met at the Slade School of Fine Arts in 1918 and they immediately hit it off. Patricia was fiery, a self-proclaimed suffragette and the life of any party, whereas Dorothy was much quieter. Most importantly, Patricia also took art as seriously as Dorothy, and soon the pair were inseparable. There are some early drawings by Dorothy included in the exhibition, alongside one by Patricia. And looking at the two artists' work side by side, you can see that they were both drawing really beautifully, but the styles were quite distinctive, which is really interesting given what happened next. Dorothy was much happier behind the canvas making the work, whereas Patricia loved being out front, talking about their work, socialising, networking. And in 1922, Patricia went to meet Roger Fry, who was an influential curator and a member of the Bloomsbury Group, and she took examples of both artists' work to show him. He was immediately taken by Dorothy's work, but he mistakenly thought it was Patricia's, and she did not correct him. Playing to their differing strengths, a plan soon emerged. Dorothy Hepworth would continue to make acclaimed works, but sign them under her lover's name, Patricia Preece. The paintings on display here are jointly attributed to Patricia and Dorothy, which is the first time that's happened, and it really honours the way that this partnership was intended to be discussed and displayed. And actually these paintings were made after the pair had spent time together studying in Paris. And in Paris at the time, queer lives were much more accepted and the pair could live a bit more openly. And Parisian life really rubbed off on them. They both started smoking cigarettes from long cigarette holders, and Dorothy actually cut her hair into a short bob, which is a part of the story that I love, because that's something that I did when I came out, and I think it's still a rite of passage for a lot of lesbians to cut their hair short when they come out. They found inspiration from French artists such as André Derain and Jean Marchand. Dorothy honed her style and Patricia helped arrange still lifes, which you can see here. These still lives were really inspired by the French painter Paul Cézanne, and you can really see his influence in the palette that Dorothy's using, also the choice of objects that Patricia has included in the still life, and just the overall formal qualities and the way that she's handling the paint. One of the reasons I really love this section of the exhibition is because it's presenting still lives and domestic interiors in a way that I really would consider queer art. We're seeing work presented through a queer gaze, and it's giving us insight into queer lives. And I think a lot of people, when they think about queer art, expect to see literally two boys in bed together, but there are just so many other ways, either implicitly or explicitly, to reflect the experiences of LGBTQIA+ people through art. After nearly 4 years together in Paris, Dorothy and Patricia moved to Cookham, a little English village on the River Thames, and they set up home together, living and working side by side in a newly built thatched cottage. Dorothy wrote about those early years and it just sounds idyllic. There's stories about the pair sleeping together on the floor and just really having a lovely time. But it was in Cookham where they met Stanley Spencer, who was a really influential painter at the time. And Patricia began modelling for him and became his muse, which supported the couple during financial hardship that they were experiencing following the Wall Street crash. Here you can see his portrait of Patricia. She used the money that she earned from sitting for him to contribute to the mortgage payments on the cottage that she shared with Dorothy. Here's another portrait of Patricia by Stanley Spencer, this one on Cockmarsh Hill in Cookham, and notice how he's included a wedding ring in the painting. In 1937, no doubt influenced by financial struggles, Patricia agreed to marry Stanley, but she made an agreement with him that she would stay together with Dorothy. The marriage saved the pair of them from financial ruin, and it granted Stanley his wish of having Patricia as a muse and a wife. And I find this bit of the story just really fascinating. It really demonstrates Dorothy and Patricia's resilience, the way they managed to stay together even within these pretty restrictive structures that they were forced to operate within. But it also just really gives me the ick that Patricia had to marry Stanley in order to keep her love alive with Dorothy. Patricia and Dorothy remained inseparable. As you can see in this archival photograph taken from Stanley and Patricia's wedding day, Dorothy was never too far away. I love the little side eye that Dorothy's shooting in Stanley's direction. After just 2 tumultuous years, the pair separated. Bitterness ensued, and Stanley claimed Patricia had used him and that he had never seen Patricia paint in his time of knowing her. Stanley's version of events cast a shadow over Dorothy and Patricia's reputation in the art world. It really hindered their career prospects, and it painted them as a deceitful and manipulative pair. Despite Stanley's rumour spreading, Dorothy continued to work. These deeply personal and erotic drawings of Patricia really demonstrate the couple's long-standing love for each other. And in these works, Patricia really appears to be an independent, powerful and sexual subject. It's a huge contrast to Stanley's paintings that capture her as a submissive, fleshy, compliant subject. These are actually some of my favourite pieces in the show. They're just so intimate, and Patricia's soft butch energy really shines through. Dorothy Hepworth and Patricia Preece amassed a large amount of work over the years, including a range of portraiture predominantly featuring the residents of Cookham. Patricia didn't just provide a public face and name for their partnership, but she was a critical sounding board for ideas, as well as booking portrait sitters, scene setting, selling their works and arranging exhibitions. Dorothy continued to paint tirelessly well into her 80s. And even after Patricia died in 1966, Dorothy kept going for another 12 years, and she always signed her work with Patricia's name. Even this self-portrait, it's a portrait of Dorothy as an artist, paintbrush in hand, and it's definitely Dorothy. We can recognise her from the photographs included in the exhibition, but she signed the work Patricia Preece. It's such a romantic gesture and a real tribute to their partnership. Dorothy and Patricia now rest side by side in Cookham churchyard, marked by a shared gravestone bearing the inscription, "United in life and death."